In the vast, unforgiving plains of the Old West, where the cold wind cuts sharper than a knife and survival is a daily battle, a lone cowboy made a choice that would ripple through the hearts of many. Under a sky thick with stars and frost, he noticed a stranger shivering in the biting chill, a man stripped of warmth and hope. Without hesitation, the cowboy removed his own coat, worn but sturdy, and draped it over the trembling figure, a simple act that would soon ignite a wave of generosity and unity unlike anything the frontier had ever seen. That single coat, heavy with the scent of dust and sweat, became a symbol far greater than mere fabric. It was a gift of compassion in a world often ruled by indifference and hardship, a gesture that transcended words and bridged the gap between strangers. What happened next defied the harshness of the land and the suspicion of its people. By the very next day, 50 families, moved by the story of that cowboy's kindness, arrived at the stranger's doorstep, seeking shelter, warmth, and community in a place where such comforts were rare. This is not just a tale of charity, but a story of how one act of selflessness can weave a tapestry of hope and solidarity across a rugged land. It reveals the unseen connections that bind us, especially in times of desperation and need. The cowboy's coat was more than protection against the cold. It was a beacon that called the lost and weary to find refuge and friendship where none was expected. In a world where every man for himself seemed the law of the land, this story stands as a powerful reminder that kindness can conquer fear and generosity can build communities. The arrival of those 50 families was a turning point, a moment where the Old West's wild heart softened to reveal the strength found in unity and shared humanity. Join me as we explore the journey of that cowboy, the stranger who received more than a coat, and the families whose lives were forever changed by a single act of warmth. This is a story about courage, hope, and the extraordinary power of giving in a land that demanded the very best of those who dared to live in it. The cold settled heavily over the prairie as the cowboy rode into the fading light of dusk, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. The harsh winds whispered across the barren land, carrying with them stories of struggle and survival. Amid the endless expanse, the cowboy spotted a lone figure, a stranger whose clothes hung in tatters, whose frame shivered uncontrollably beneath the relentless chill. It was a sight both familiar and haunting in these unforgiving lands, where compassion was scarce and suspicion plentiful. Without a second thought, the cowboy dismounted and approached the stranger. His own coat, worn from years of hard work but still sturdy, was stripped from his back and wrapped gently around the trembling man. This simple gesture, born from a deep sense of empathy forged by the hardships of the frontier, was more than a physical act of warmth. It was a silent message that no one should endure the cold alone. In that fleeting moment, the cowboy bridged the gap between isolation and connection, sowing the seeds of something far greater than either could imagine. The stranger, taken aback by this unexpected kindness, felt a flicker of hope ignite within his weary heart. The coat was a shield against the biting cold, but it also became a symbol of belonging, a rare gift in a world where most faces were hard and eyes wary. As the cowboy mounted his horse and rode away, neither could foresee the profound impact this single act would have on the days to come, nor the community that would rise in its wake. That night, word of the cowboy's generosity spread quietly across the scattered settlements, carried by whispers around campfires and the rustling of wind through dry grass. Stories traveled fast in the Old West, where every gesture of kindness was magnified against the backdrop of hardship. The coat became a legend, a beacon that drew the attention of those lost and forgotten, seeking warmth not only of body but of spirit. By the break of dawn, the first of 50 families had begun their journey, traveling through rough terrain and uncertain roads, drawn by the promise of shelter and hope kindled by the cowboy's compassion. These families, many weathered by their own battles, came not just for refuge, but to join a community forged by shared hardship and the warmth of a stranger's gift. The stage was set for a transformation that would redefine what it meant to survive in the Old West. As the morning sun painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, the stranger's humble dwelling buzzed with newfound life. One by one, families arrived, fathers carrying weary children, mothers tending to the sick, and neighbors who had long since forgotten what it meant to feel safe. The house that once sheltered a single man now became a haven for 50 families, their arrival a testament to the extraordinary power of kindness in a land often ruled by fear and solitude. The cowboy, hearing of the swelling crowd, returned to witness the fruits of his simple act. Standing amidst the throng, he felt a swell of pride and humility, knowing that a single coat had sparked a movement far beyond physical warmth. It was a powerful reminder that in a world often hardened by survival, compassion could carve out spaces of hope and humanity. The faces around him, etched with lines of struggle and relief, told stories of lives forever changed. As the family settled, they shared more than just shelter. Bonds were forged over shared meals, whispered stories, and collective resilience. In the flickering glow of campfires, laughter began to replace silence, and trust grew where suspicion once reigned. The stranger, once isolated and vulnerable, emerged as a symbol of this newfound community, embodying the spirit of survival intertwined with compassion. Yet, this sudden gathering was not without its challenges. Resources were scarce, and the harsh frontier tested their resolve daily. But together, supported by the cowboys' unwavering presence and the collective will of 50 families, they faced each trial with courage. Their unity became their strength, a living proof that together, even the wildest lands could be tamed through hope and mutual aid. The story of the cowboy's coat and the 50 families who came to warm a stranger's home spread quickly, inspiring other settlements to embrace the power of kindness and community. It was a powerful ripple, reaching beyond the dusty trails and rugged mountains, a legacy born from a single act of generosity on a cold, unforgiving night. As the days unfolded, the stranger's home transformed into a vibrant hub of life, echoing with voices and footsteps that had once been silenced by loneliness and hardship. The 50 families, each carrying their own stories of loss and perseverance, began to weave their lives together like threads in a tapestry. Children played in the dirt, their laughter a sweet rebellion against the hardships of the frontier, while adults shared tasks and meals, building a community from the ashes of isolation. The cowboy watched this transformation with a heart both humbled and proud. His simple act of giving had blossomed into a sanctuary where hope grew alongside crops planted in the surrounding fields. He understood, perhaps better than anyone, that survival in the Old West was not just about strength or skill, but about the connections forged between people. It was in the sharing of a coat, the offering of warmth, and the opening of doors that true resilience was born. Among the families, stories were exchanged, tales of narrow escapes from danger, quiet moments of kindness, and dreams for a better life. These shared narratives became the foundation of their unity, binding them not just by necessity, but by a common belief in a future where no one would be left out in the cold. The stranger, once an outsider, was embraced not just as a neighbor, but as a leader whose journey had inspired them all. Yet, the frontier remained unforgiving. Harsh winters, scarce resources, and the ever-present threat of outlaws tested their resolve. But the community faced each challenge with a fierce determination, fortified by the knowledge that they were no longer alone. The cowboy's coat, once a symbol of warmth for one man, had ignited a flame of hope that now warmed 50 families and counting. Word of this remarkable community spread like wildfire, drawing attention from nearby settlements. The story of the cowboy's generosity and the 50 families' unity became a beacon for those who had suffered in silence, a call to gather, rebuild, and stand together. It was proof that even in the wildest reaches of the Old West, humanity's greatest strength lay in kindness and solidarity. The arrival of neighboring settlers brought new faces and fresh hopes to the growing community. What had started as a gathering of 50 families soon blossomed into a thriving settlement, alive with the spirit of cooperation and shared dreams. New homes rose where there were once only tents and lean-tos, and the land, once wild and untamed, began to bear the fruits of their labor and love. The cowboy, now regarded as a pillar of this burgeoning society, continued to lead with quiet strength and humility. He understood that leadership was not about command, but about service, protecting the vulnerable, encouraging growth, and fostering an environment where everyone's voice mattered. His coat, passed on to the stranger, had become a symbol of this ethos, an emblem of generosity that sparked a revolution of compassion. The stranger, having found not only shelter but a family, flourished in his new role as a unifier. His journey from isolation to belonging inspired others to embrace their own pasts and find strength in community. Together, they worked the fields, defended their homes, and nurtured a culture where kindness was as essential as water in the parched soil. Challenges remained: nature's wrath, the threats of bandits, and the endless toil of frontier life. But the community faced each with unwavering resolve. Their unity was their fortress, a living testament to the power of a single act of kindness. Where once there had been suspicion and solitude, now stood a testament to hope and resilience. As night fell and stars blanketed the sky, the settlement stood as a beacon in the wilderness. The legacy of the cowboy's coat and the 50 families' warmth was not merely a story of survival, but a powerful reminder that in the vast, rugged lands of the Old West, compassion could kindle a fire strong enough to light the darkest nights. The seasons turned, and with each passing month, the settlement grew stronger and more vibrant. The 50 families, once strangers bound by need, had become an inseparable community knit together by shared hardships and mutual care. Fields of wheat and corn stretched across the plains where once there was only wild brush, nurtured by hands calloused from toil but guided by hope. The sound of hammer on nail and laughter on the wind became the new rhythm of life, replacing the silence of isolation with the hum of belonging. In this transforming landscape, the cowboy's coat remained a potent symbol. More than fabric, it was the thread that wove the community's story of compassion and renewal. The cowboy himself became a quiet legend, a man who understood that true strength was measured not by the firepower he carried, but by the generosity he showed in the smallest moments. His coat had shielded a stranger from the cold, but his actions had shielded 100 souls from despair. He moved among the families not as a lord or commander, but as a guardian and friend, his presence a steadying force amid the unpredictability of frontier life. Stories of his kindness traveled on the wind, inspiring neighboring settlements to consider what could be achieved when hearts were open and hands willing. Yet, life on the frontier was never without trials. Harsh winters brought biting cold and scarce supplies, testing the community's resilience. Bandits and rustlers lurked beyond the hills, threatening the fragile peace they had built. But the settlers faced these threats with a unity born of shared sacrifice and unwavering faith. Together, they organized watches, shared resources, and stood as one against the dangers that sought to undo them. The coat that started it all had grown into a mantle of collective responsibility and courage. Inside the homes warmed by firelight, parents told their children stories of that cold night when a cowboy's kindness sparked a miracle. These tales were more than folklore. They were lessons passed down about the power of empathy, the importance of community, and the strength found in giving without expecting in return. The younger generation grew up not just surviving the West, but thriving within a legacy of compassion and hope. As the settlement flourished, so too did the bonds between its people. The stranger, once a lone figure cloaked in uncertainty, became a symbol of transformation, proof that no matter how harsh the past or unforgiving the landscape, change was possible when people chose kindness over indifference. The cowboy's coat was the spark, but it was the hearts of 50 families that fanned it into a flame that would burn for generations. The community's reputation spread far and wide, attracting those who had lost faith in the wilderness and sought refuge in its promise of renewal. Travelers arrived with weary eyes and heavy burdens, drawn by stories of a place where warmth was shared freely and strangers were welcomed as kin. This influx brought new challenges but also fresh strength, different skills, stories, and dreams that enriched the tapestry of the settlement. It was no longer a simple gathering of families, but a flourishing town, alive with the spirit of the Old West and the enduring power of human connection. The cowboy and the stranger stood side by side, pillars of a community built on acts of courage and compassion. Their friendship, forged in that bitter cold night, had become the foundation upon which so many others leaned. The cowboy's modesty and the stranger's humility set the tone for a town that valued respect, hard work, and above all, kindness. Their leadership was not marked by dominance, but by example, teaching others that true power lies in lifting one another up. Throughout the long winters and hot summers, the town held fast to the lessons learned from that fateful night. They understood that the frontier could be tamed not just by guns and grit, but by generosity and trust. When neighbors shared what little they had and protected one another fiercely, they created a sanctuary in a world that often seemed wild and cruel. This was their triumph, a victory not measured by territory won, but by lives touched and spirits healed. In quiet moments beneath the endless stars, the cowboy and the stranger would reflect on their journey. They knew their story was more than their own. It was a beacon for all who believed in the power of simple acts to change the world. They had witnessed how one coat could shelter a man, and how that shelter could grow into a home for 50 families, a testament to the resilience and heart of the Old West. As the settlement thrived and the years unfolded, the legacy of that cold night remained alive, a timeless reminder that kindness, no matter how small, can set in motion a chain of hope and healing. It was proof that even in the harshest places, humanity could flourish when nurtured by the warmth of compassion and the courage to give. The years that followed transformed the settlement into a thriving community, a beacon of hope amid the rugged wilderness. The 50 families, once scattered souls brought together by circumstance, had forged a new way of life, one built on shared hardship, trust, and mutual support. The land, once wild and untamed, was cultivated with care, yielding crops that fed more than just bodies, but nourished spirits hungry for stability and belonging. Children who had known only uncertainty now played freely beneath wide-open skies, their laughter a powerful testament to the strength of this newly woven family. The cowboy, whose simple code had started this remarkable story, remained a humble guardian of the town's spirit. His quiet leadership inspired others to find courage and compassion, showing that true strength was measured not in guns or brawn, but in the willingness to protect and uplift those around you. Neighbors looked to him, not only for guidance, but as a living symbol of hope, a reminder that even the smallest acts could kindle a fire strong enough to change the course of many lives. As the settlement expanded, so did the bonds among its people. The families worked side by side, sharing tools, stories, and dreams of a future shaped by their collective will. Celebrations marked the changing seasons, bringing together young and old to honor their journey and the community they had built. Through every hardship, whether harsh winters, droughts, or threats from outsiders, the town stood firm, their unity a shield against the uncertainties of frontier life. Amid these successes, the cowboy and the stranger often reflected on how far they had come since that cold night when kindness met need. They understood that their story was about more than survival. It was about transformation, about how empathy could rewrite destinies and build legacies that lasted beyond a lifetime. Their partnership, born of compassion and respect, set the tone for a community where no one would be left out in the cold again. As twilight descended over the plains, the town glowed softly in the fading light, a place where hope was not just a fleeting feeling, but a living, breathing reality. The legacy of the cowboy's coat and the 50 families' warmth was etched into every heart and home, a story that would be told for generations as a powerful reminder that even in the wildest lands, kindness and courage can conquer the coldest nights. News of the settlement's success traveled beyond the horizon, carried by travelers and traders who spoke of a town that had risen from hardship through the simple yet profound power of generosity. The story of the cowboy's coat and the 50 families who found warmth and home became a legend that inspired others across the frontier. It was a testament to what could be achieved when people chose compassion over indifference and unity over isolation. New settlers arrived, drawn by the promise of community and the chance to build a better life. They brought with them diverse skills, traditions, and hopes, enriching the cultural tapestry of the town. The cowboy and the stranger welcomed them, eager to share the lessons born from their own journey, lessons about resilience, empathy, and the strength found in standing together. The town grew not only in size, but in spirit, becoming a model for others facing the challenges of frontier life. Leadership in the town evolved naturally, rooted in the values that had brought everyone together. The cowboy and stranger's example of humility and kindness shaped the town's governance, fostering an environment where every voice mattered, and decisions were made with the community's welfare in mind. Their legacy was one of service and shared responsibility, proving that true power lies in uplifting others. Despite new challenges, including harsh winters and external threats, the town remained steadfast. Its people faced adversity with courage, fortified by the knowledge that their strength was not just in their arms, but in their hearts. They had built more than homes. They had built a sanctuary where hope thrived, and every person mattered. Under the vast expanse of the western sky, the story of the cowboy's coat and the 50 families continued to inspire. It was a story that transcended time and place, reminding all who heard it that even in the coldest, most unforgiving lands, warmth could be found in the simple act of giving, and in the unbreakable bonds forged through compassion and courage. As the years rolled on, the settlement evolved from a mere cluster of homes into a thriving town pulsating with life and resilience. The 50 families that had once sought shelter found not only safety, but a profound sense of belonging. Their collective story, born from a simple act of generosity, became the foundation of a legacy that echoed through generations. The cowboy's coat, once a solitary gesture of kindness, now symbolized the enduring power of empathy, a reminder that even in the toughest landscapes, the human spirit can foster profound change. The town's prosperity was not solely measured by its growing barns or flourishing crops, but by the strength of its community bonds. Neighbors watched over each other, shared in triumphs and tragedies, and celebrated the small joys that punctuated frontier life. The cowboy and the stranger, whose lives had intertwined on a cold, fateful night, stood as living testaments to the transformative nature of compassion and courage. Their legacy was embedded in every handshake, every shared meal, and every child's laughter that filled the air. Beyond the physical growth, the settlement became a beacon of hope for other struggling communities scattered across the vast wilderness. Word of the town's remarkable story spread like wildfire, inspiring others to believe that kindness and unity could tame even the wildest of frontiers. Travelers arrived not just seeking land or opportunity, but yearning to become part of a community shaped by love and mutual respect, a stark contrast to the often brutal reality of the Old West. Yet, the town remained vigilant, understanding that peace required continual effort and sacrifice. The hardships of the frontier never fully faded, but the residents faced each challenge fortified by their shared history and unwavering bonds. The cowboy's coat was no longer just a symbol of warmth for one stranger, but a mantle of responsibility carried by an entire community dedicated to preserving what they had built together. As dusk settled over the prairie, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, the town stood tall, a testament to the enduring strength of kindness, unity, and hope. The legacy born from one man's coat and the courage of 50 families had become a story woven into the very fabric of the West, a story destined to inspire long after the dust had settled. In the twilight of their years, the cowboy and the stranger often sat beneath the endless western sky, reflecting on a journey that had forever altered their lives and the lives of countless others. Their friendship, born from a moment of compassion, had grown into a lifelong partnership that shaped a community and left an indelible mark on the history of the frontier. They knew their story was more than a tale of survival. It was a timeless lesson about the power of kindness to change destinies. The cowboy's quiet strength and the stranger's resilience had forged a legacy that transcended generations. Their example taught that even the smallest acts, like giving a coat to a stranger on a cold night, could ignite movements that transform lives and landscapes. The town they helped build thrived, its streets alive with stories of courage, hope, and unity that continued to inspire those who called the West home. The children raised in that settlement grew up with a deep understanding of what it meant to be part of something greater than themselves. They learned that true wealth was not measured in gold or land, but in the bonds of community and the willingness to care for others. The legacy of the cowboy's coat was passed down, a symbol of generosity that reminded all to act with compassion in a world that often demanded toughness. Though the frontier remained wild and unpredictable, the town stood as proof that even in the harshest conditions, humanity could flourish. The warmth born from a single act of kindness continued to radiate through the lives of the families who called the settlement home. Their story was a beacon, a light that cut through the darkness, reminding all who heard it that hope and love could conquer even the coldest nights. As stars glittered above the vast western plains, the cowboy and the stranger sat in quiet contentment, knowing that their journey had sown the seeds of something far greater than themselves. Their story would live on, etched in the hearts of those who believe in the transformative power of kindness, courage, and unity in the wild, beautiful land called the Old West. As we close this incredible journey, it becomes clear that the true heart of the Old West was never just about survival or conquest. It was about the courage to extend kindness when it mattered most. The story of the cowboy who gave his coat to a stranger, sparking a gathering of 50 families, reminds us that even the smallest act of generosity can ignite a wildfire of hope that transforms lives and communities. It is a timeless lesson that compassion can break through the coldest nights and the harshest circumstances. Throughout this tale, we see how strength is measured not by the power one wields, but by the depth of empathy one shows. The unity born from the cowboy's simple gift teaches us that no matter how rugged or unforgiving the world may seem, human connection remains the greatest force for change. It challenges us to look beyond appearances, to see the potential in everyone, and to choose kindness even when it is the hardest path. Let this story inspire you to find your own moments of compassion. Remember that a small gesture, a warm coat, a helping hand, a moment of understanding, can spark hope where it feels lost. When we come together in solidarity, we create communities that not only survive but thrive. The legacy of the Old West lives on in these acts of humanity that shape our present and future. If this story moved you, take a moment to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your story might be the spark that encourages someone else to act with kindness. And if you want to continue exploring stories that inspire and awaken the spirit, make sure to subscribe and become part of our growing community, where every tale reminds us why hope endures. Thank you for watching and joining this journey. May the courage of the cowboy and the warmth of the 50 families remind you that no matter how tough the road ahead, kindness and unity will always light the way forward.